Hi, my name is Lisa Martin. I am the mother of a child with special needs. He has Fragile X syndrome. In many respects, he has been my teacher. He has made me be a more caring, compassionate, better human being. What we have learned together on our journey, I have realised the difficulties and challenges that parents of special needs children face are wide and varied. During my years of facilitating courses for parents and professionals, I have met some wonderful people who have shared with me their stories of great joy and sadness, who have experienced the good, the bad and the ugly of all aspects of life bringing up their special children. I am passionate about empowering parents who are dedicated in helping their children with additional needs. You're invited to my podcast. I will be talking about all things in our special world of disability and additional needs. I will be interviewing other parents of children with special needs, as well as professionals and people in the community who are offering services that help. Sometimes these podcasts might touch an emotional nerve and upset you. Other times they might fill you with joy and empower you. I don't mean to make you angry or upset, but we need to get a wider audience listening and talking about disability. Only when this happens, I believe disability won't be feared as it is today. Hello, my name's Lisa Martin and I'm introducing Sara Jackson. And Sara Jackson has worked in TV as a drama executive producer for about 25 years, is that right?
That's right, yes, I'm very old. Indeed, it's very lovely to be here. From a chance meeting in the garden of a very wonderful woman in that wonderful group. It's I will take any opportunity to come and talk about all the different me's that there are underneath this woman that everyone assumes is coping beautifully with life rather than entirely making it up as I go along and doing
I think that's what we're all trying to do, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you have two children, don't you?
Yes.
You've got the lovely Jacob, who's 14, and you've got Louis, who's 12. We're going to talk a little bit about Louis because he's been diagnosed with something that I'd never heard of, and I'm sure you hadn't heard of when you got the diagnosis.
Exactly. Louis has two very rare genetic chromosomal conditions, and their numbers, I used to say they're so rare, they're just numbers without names. One is 18p deletion and one is 22q duplication, and he was diagnosed at 9 months with the chromosome 18 and condition, and then we found out about the 22 actually when part of a clinical study that I had found run by an amazing mother who is a scientist who also is a mother of a daughter with a chromosome 18 condition. So I am a trustee of Chromosome 18 Europe, which is the parent registry that is connected to this clinical study in Texas. And 22q duplication just sort of showed up in his blood tests. And we went back through to geneticists at Great Ormond Street, who then said what it is. And I looked it up and kind of went, yeah, you know what, it's fine. I've got no more room for another condition. But there are similar pointers along it. But actually chromosome 18 is where I find mostly we sit.
Right. Okay.
Although Louis is an extremely fortunate, wonderful, miracle 12-year-old. And I often, in basic genetics, have decided that maybe the bits that he's missing from the short arm of chromosome 18 might be being sort of compensated by the extra material on 22. That's what I've decided. I'm not sure if a geneticist would agree with me, but because he's not, as he's grown older, he's not as obviously typical of kids with his condition, actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But as we were discussing earlier as well, this is because you got a lot of early intervention in from the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that and how the challenges you had in the pregnancy and
yeah
stuff? It was
absolutely
quite tough for you, wasn't it?
It really was. I I really early on in the pregnancy, I actually think that, but just before getting pregnant with Louis, I do think I had a very early miscarriage. But I'd had a sort of normal pregnancy with Jacob. Jacob is 22 months older than Louis. And I was pregnant with Louis, but there was a bleed when I was around 7 weeks. And I went and they said maybe it's a miscarriage, which I didn't know what any of this is. And I sort of thought, what does that mean? Does that mean I've got or not got? And when I went to be checked, it was like, no, actually, it's all right. Your cervix is closed. It's fine. It's fine. I remember my sister at the time saying, what do you think? How do you feel? And I remember saying, I think it's fine. I don't know if it's totally normal, but I think it's fine. And if you could put a title on everything that came to pass and everything that's there, I think I think my instinct was spot on. So we went for a 12-week scan and the nuchal fold was high. So they suggested CVS, amnio, whatever. I decided to go for a CVS because I'm not very good at waiting around for anything. Had the CVS, and I remember being told at the time 1 in 200. The first thing that comes back after 3 days versus growing the culture, 1 in 200 have a problem. So the CVS came back, and we were that 1 in 200. There were quite sort of multiple cell lines that didn't look quite right, so they grew the culture. And when the culture came back, they said, okay, so we need to do an amnio because that's the placenta. We now need to test the fluid and the baby. We get a more accurate reading. So then I go for an amnio. It's like 17 weeks now of just worry, trying not to worry. And all the time teaching doctors. So sitting there as there's this massive needle and you're lying in a room and just someone's about to just said something. The first thing they do is talk to you about termination and abnormalities. And I think I'd sat there quietly at the CVS, but at the amnio, I just said, stop. I'm a mum. I'm really worried. You're about to stick a massive needle into me. I know all of the risks that is, and all you're doing is talking about the termination of this baby. Please don't do that. And I was quite proud of myself, just sort of thinking, I'm a human being, and you're sticking and doing like absolutely the thing. So anyway, the amnio came back. It was quite a long delay for the results to come back, but the results came back normal. I, however, had started leaking after the amnio, so I was then in the world of trying to not be in that situation. I went to my amazing acupuncturist I used to see, Dr. Tran, who then gave me acupressure and some sort of safe herbal things, and I absolutely believe he got me all the way, because I remember waking up one morning and going, I don't think these pills are working anymore, and standing up and there being fluid again. Wow. And thinking, right, okay, but we're at kind of 27 weeks. How can I keep going? How can we keep going? But I was in and out of the day assessment unit.
This must have been so worrying
for
you this time.
And I was working. Well. So I'd left a very big job. I was the controller of drama at Sky Television when I had Jacob and after, and something in me decided I needed to not do that job anymore, which was looked on probably by lots of people I knew as insane to walk away from a big job like that. But I came away, and then I started consulting for another international broadcaster, but I was on a sort of consultation contract, and would go to the hospital in the morning and then sort of be back and forwards really just across the week, 3 times a week in. But we managed to get to 39 weeks, and then I just was like, I've pushed my luck. I just need to get him out and safe, and I need to look after him. I can't do anything else. But I was in and out, being taken into hospital, a bag packed. It was very good to work out how to get a bag packed, because I was going to need it again quite soon. So have my lovely little boy, he was very quiet and very sweet and very, it all looked fine. Yeah. The birth was sort of fine, a cord wrapped around the neck, but that was dealt with, and sort of came home with my normal baby and thought, oh, well, that was that then. That was that then, and here we are. But with a disquiet right at the back of my head, looking back in hindsight, of he is a bit quiet and he is, he's very little. And he caught a bug that we all had, a gastro bug, at 6 weeks, and we all got through it, and it absolutely floored him. He just, his body couldn't cope with it, and from that point on, every cold, every infection, everything he would get fevers. I mean, we were back and forward to hospital, to A&E with him, honestly, probably once a week. Ambulance a couple of times. From an eye infection that came, literally, you watched his eyes swell overnight, just thinking, what the hell? This vulnerable little thing that I just had to keep, and the alarm bells suddenly were allowed to ring again, actually, slowly, as people tell you it's bronchiolitis or it's this or that, and me thinking, this is not okay, something is not okay. And I remember saying to a doctor, I had a interesting pregnancy. Are you sure this is nothing to do with that pregnancy? No. And I then, a friend of mine, her son had some respiratory issues, and the biggest thing for him was respiratory issues and immune system. You could hear him breathing in the next room, rattling, this sweet little thing. And I went to see her after the next time of someone saying, no, it's nothing to do with your pregnancy. It was like, okay. And I made an appointment privately with Colin Wallace, the respiratory specialist at Great Ormond Street that she had recommended. And we sat in his office, and he noticed things, and he listened to me. He listened to me and us, and sort of said, let's do some tests, and noticed the single palmar crease, and that sort of. Yeah, so then we did those tests back through our hospital, the Royal Free, and a very lovely paediatrician there, and we waited for those tests. And I was saying to you, because I used to write a blog, and I used to mark diagnosis date every single year with a different blog post, just because it was there. It was the day that I used to say my DNA changed when I found that his DNA was different. And I remember sitting in the hospital and in the waiting room, not being anonymous, and looking and going, oh God, please don't let me be right. I'm right. I don't want to be right. I'm right. I don't want to be right. Because I just thought I saw their sympathetic looks of the nurses.
That's awful, isn't it?
I just thought,
feeling of the look of sympathy on people's faces.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
You don't want that.
We just want a normal child.
I wrote blog posts about the head tilt as well. The head tilt, the same as the, you'd never know there's anything wrong with him. All these things that became just rage, absolute rage from me in a way that I had to process why, because people are not doing it to be awful, but it's awful.
And plus, you're going through your grieving process then, because we all go through that.
Yeah.
One, it's denial.
Yeah.
Please don't let it be right. Please don't let it be right, which is what you were saying. And then it's the anger.
Absolutely.
The anger comes because no one was listening to you. You
could have sorted all of this out. Could have sorted it out before he was born. I could have been ready for this. Yeah. Whereas I remember thinking then, I couldn't go back to work. I had this job. We had all these responsibilities and mortgage, and we bought a house, and we had all of this stuff. And I had 9 months of trying to keep my baby alive. And then being delivered news about something that nobody has ever met another child in. This lovely, lovely paediatrician saying to me, I don't know, I can't tell you anything. We don't have any children with this, but we can make you a referral to a geneticist at Great Ormond Street. And I remember it was weeks long, and I just was like, I cannot wait for that. I again just said, I don't care. Let's pay to go and see somebody. What is this condition? Where is it? Tell me everything about it. I just became this. I'm a very stubborn person, but I became this stubborn, right, okay. But I remember thinking, it's taken 9 months, and now I've got to start from everyone else. No, I'm on empty. I'm like at this swimming pool with a tiny bit of water in the bottom of it sort of flapping, there's the fish trying to stay, whatever it is, mixed images there. And now I've got to make everyone else feel better about this diagnosis and find out everything that's wrong with him and do all of that and still be a mum to Jacob and get a job another time because we've got to pay our mortgage. And I remember just thinking 9 months when I allowed myself to be angry rather than just focused. All that time wasted because somebody missed it.
Yeah.
Somebody missed it on my amnio. Yeah. Somebody didn't look under the microscope, which is when I went through the process of finding out what had happened.
Yeah, I think a lot of us end up going private.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Outrage, I mean.
And yeah, the early intervention is not there because it took me 2 years to get Iggy's diagnosis of Fragile X syndrome, and it sounds very
It is.
Yeah.
And then you're just looking at everything you can do, and all I could find, lovely charity Unique, who have these amazing pamphlets of all of these rare conditions. They are an extraordinary, unfunded charity. Rarechromo.org. They get in touch with people and they get you to fill in questionnaires, and they have these leaflets which give you as much information as you can, and through them I found this clinical study in Texas, and through them I found the parent registry, which is the charity attached to this clinical study, and these parents who had a Yahoo group at that time. And I sat there for a long time writing an email and deleting an email and writing and deleting that was new to the group. But they gave me so much information about just how to keep him well. Go to an ENT specialist because his lips go blue, or, and as an educated woman, I didn't even know. I hadn't taken my child to an ENT specialist. I was like, I don't even know where that is. Okay, how do I go and find that? But I spent 4 years, the first 4 years of his life, talking about it, writing about it, and assuming that he would be as severely affected as all the information I could find, which was a lot of these lovely affected people have very severe speech and language delays, have cognitive delays. Some of them, depending on what genes are missing, are in wheelchairs. Most of the kids have hypertonia. Most of the kids have high pain thresholds. So quite a lot of crossover with a lot of kids with needs and conditions. Yeah. And I just thought, well, if I don't know anyone, I'm just going to assume he's going to have all of those things. Yeah. So I took him out of the buggy and we walked everywhere, but I didn't walk. I was like this strange woman seen walking around my neighbourhood because I was just very conscious of balance for him. And if you have a kid holds their hand up to you, they're not balancing. So I would sort of be crouching and walking with him so that he could get his balance. I wouldn't put him on a scooter because I'd see just these kids are only using one leg. It's like, well, I don't think that's very helpful. Maybe I won't do that. Constantly active thinking, if this muscle tone thing is there and it's like Groundhog Day for his muscles over the day, then we just have to be active and move. I used to do like secret physio for him because I didn't get anything. I didn't get any physio. I didn't get anything because our systems are so overloaded. Yeah. And he didn't look like a disabled kid. Yeah. And I didn't have a paediatrician. So it took a long time to get everything together. And in that time, I probably did him more good than I realise.
Oh, for sure. Because I think a lot of us parents, we're pretty much just left dangling, aren't we? Yeah. We just, there's your diagnosis. See you later.
Exactly.
Get on with it.
Try not to Google,
But that's what we do.
Which is what you do.
Yeah, that's what we do straight away. And some information is amazing. And some not so good.
People are amazing.
But you just do the best you can. And it sounds like you've done an amazing job.
I did. I nearly broke myself. There's no question I nearly broke myself. I don't know what the impact of that time would be on me. Yeah. And for a long time I thought about that quite a lot. Or when I allowed myself to look at what do I need,
I our needs don't come into it in that period of time. I know I didn't.
No.
I don't think I even put any makeup on for about 2 years.
I couldn't. I looked at myself
like
in
I was
sections.
Getting dressed in the dark.
Well, that's it. But you do.
Because
sections. I could look at my
mode.
face. I could look at my knickers tucked into my skirt tucked into my knickers type thing.
Yeah.
It was absolute basic. Yeah. Plus, I needed to go back to work. So when he was 18 months old, I managed to find a lovely au pair who was an slightly older woman who I thought, because I can't send him to nursery because his immune system can't take it, even though I want him to be with other kids, and I have to go back to work and know that he's okay. And so by getting an au pair and this gorgeous, lovely woman called Natalia, who is still a nanny now in the UK, but I was able to put him into a private nursery who I knew would take him when he wasn't quite potty trained yet, because that sensitivity took a bit of time to come. And so he only needed to do mornings there so she could pick him up. I couldn't do any of that stuff. I couldn't do what I'd done with Jacob, which is put him in nursery, hair it, back from work to get there before nursery closed. All those childcare options were not open, but suddenly that was. But I was working and going to work whilst, there's a cardio appointment, or they discovered this, or they discovered that, or he's gone blue at the table while he's got a little monitor on before a sleep study we're doing, and I'm going off to work to be shouted at by a writer, or
how did that make you feel, having to leave them and go to this really high-powered job?
Horrendous. I felt like a fake, and I felt like that was the first separation of something that I know we just talked about earlier, that separation between the two me's as I see them. That Sara Johnson was the person who works in television, and Sara Jackson is the mum and the wife and the this person, this activist, parent, advocate person. And I think I separated the two in order to make sure my employer didn't think I was unemployable. And to also, I was very lucky that I said, if I have to go to a hospital appointment, I will get home and I will work all night, but I do need to do this, and they let me do that, but that's not always a given, which is why I think that random decision to walk away from a job where it wouldn't have been possible, that was much further away from home, was not a random decision at all. I just didn't know it.
It was your motherly instinct.
Absolutely, something before I even had him. I didn't even have him. I wasn't even pregnant with him, but something told me. Don't know what it was. And
it's funny that, isn't it? As a mother, we do have these instincts, and they tend to be right.
Yeah.
And it was interesting what you were saying about you were getting a lot of support from people in America from this
people
researcher.
around the world.
Because I felt like this. We were talking earlier about the circle of interdependence that I'm writing about at the moment, and before Iggy and my life with a child with disability, I had loads of friends in my circle, my social network, and I had lots of support. But then when I needed the support, and my child needed support, and my needs and my child's needs were growing, these people just ended up disappearing.
No.
And you said you felt a little bit like that as well.
I think you just go into a kind of needs basis on things, that I was so taken up with the daily life of life that actually. And I'm not maybe I was once a chat on the phone person, but I am absolutely not that person anymore. Yeah. And for a long time, I couldn't talk about anything shallow at all.
That's exactly how
My
I feel.
Goodness, not at all. I just couldn't do it. I also I've got a wonderful, wonderful group of girlfriends from university, and we're all around the same age, and we've kept in touch since university in Leeds, and we would get together every year, and if we couldn't, just life, mostly we've got together every year for the last 18 years or something.
That's amazing.
For a weekend. But when we couldn't do it, we'd try and get together in London. And I remember I couldn't express myself to them because I was a dark cloud, and there was nothing. I didn't feel like a dark cloud when I was doing everything I was doing, but you asked me how it is. It's shit.
Yeah.
He's really ill. I need to be all these people, all these everythings. I couldn't tell you who I am, what I need. There's no room for that. Yeah. Everything is shit. I don't want to answer that question of how are you?
Exactly.
So I remember getting off the tube on the way to meeting up in London. You know, these non-judgmental friends. But and having a panic attack on the tube platform at the thought of seeing my friends and not knowing who the hell I was going to be or whether I could be what they needed to be, or don't want everyone sitting there getting upset or miserable or depressed with me sitting there because everything is shit or hard. Not shit, hard. It's so
Or putting that
hard.
fake smile
Yeah.
on.
For
and
people you love
pretending.
that you would never ever want to fake yourself to. Yeah. And I remember them being very upset that I felt that I had to, when I finally told them this years later. I didn't tell them at the time that I'd had a panic attack. I did, and I guess I held it all in. And I definitely talked to them, with different ones of them at different times. But I remember they were very upset, of course, thinking that they couldn't support me, and I didn't take that support from them. But you don't know what you need when you're like that. Yeah. You're in the trenches.
And then it's so amazing when you find these Facebook groups, or in your case, this research centre in Texas, and then all of a sudden the circle of interdependence starts filling up again with a lot of support, but mainly from people that you'll actually never meet.
No, exactly. And so I've got all these lovely, lovely people on Facebook who I've never met, and I'm a trustee of this charity in Europe, and we put on conferences every 2 years. And even though, you know, actually often Louis doesn't come with because it's quite hard. You're catering for very disabled kids there, or the siblings, but we also put stuff on for the siblings. And actually there's no place for Louis because he would really be with the siblings. Yeah. Actually, typically developmentally, he doesn't need to be in the creche being looked after in that way. But I have stayed with that charity, and I will never leave that charity because I've been given a kind of a hospital pass. No, not a hospital pass, the opposite. I've been given a kind of lucky ticket here. But I was all set up to be the mother of a severely disabled child. And I have all of this tenacity and sympathy and empathy and all the things that you need. And for a long time that was feelings of, well, I'm a fraud, I don't need this as much now, but you all might still need me. You know, to just be that support. So, for example, how we met in Celia's garden, and Louis went along to help run the football session, and I would jump at all of those situations because there's not enough of it, and because, you know, we all live our own bits, and our lives right now are much, much less complicated than I could ever have imagined.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We do need more people like you. Yeah, and Louis was amazing.
Yeah, bless him.
He was really helping the children with more challenging disabilities. He was very patient with Iggy.
Yeah, but it's brilliant because for him to understand that he can be this ambassador. Yeah, you know, we can. I mean, I'll talk about the books just because I've written some books, and I've written the Treehouse at Number 9, and those were stories that I told to Jacob at the point of Louis' diagnosis, where just the emotions in our house with my lovely husband and the family and everyone reacting to something that could, in many situations, have been just awful and life-changingly awful for forever. And I started to tell stories, and then those stories I used to rhyme them as I walked. They rhyme at the speed that I walk as I was pushing them around the park, our local park, and they became something that I went then just trying to do something with this situation. I went to my lovely friend Karen Shooter, who is a graphic designer and an amazing, just does so amazing visually, and said, what if this isn't just a story on my computer? What could it be? And she did some gorgeous illustrations. And then I'd been in touch with Jeans for Jeans and did an assembly for them and went through to them and said, what else can I do? I'm a doer. I'm a doer. And so what else could I do for them? And then I was writing these stories, so I adapted the story and added in some kids that were in videos that they'd done with very rare conditions. and sort of grew this gang of kids called the Genies, all of whom have disabilities, but the disabilities are not anything that we will look and feel sympathy for. In the they happen to have these disabilities, and they're fantastic kids, and where possible we use the thing that challenges them as the thing that makes everything better. That their kindness is there, or that the young character Macro, who's small, is amazing at hide and seek because everyone looks up and he hides down, or that, you know, Oscar, who sits in a wheelchair, gets to read and read and read and read, and he's just the kid that knows everything, or, you know, whatever it is, we're taking that thing that typically would be seen as oh dear, poor you, and go, no, not poor me, because I can do this, and this is not how you'll treat me. And so the books became an app. Well, the story became an app, which is free to download still for iPad. And then a friend of mine and Karen's, a lovely friend of ours, a mutual friend called Mel, her daughter was diagnosed with something extremely rare, age 12. And Jess, her daughter, and her brother began to use our app when they couldn't talk about everything that was hard. And they would flick through the app. And Mel is a doer. And she said to both of us, what can we do? And Karen and I had said, well, we always really wanted them to be books in waiting rooms and in school libraries. I wanted my boy to bring home a book that didn't have everybody looking the same, but that wasn't, oh dear, poor you, or your mum's died, or, you know, something else. There's a few more books like that now, but there weren't that many when Louis was little. And so we, through different ways of serendipity, got funded by an educational trust, managed to print, self-publish the first book, which is similar to the app, which is Meet the Genies, and the second book, which is more of a storybook, Heroes Day. And that is what Sara Johnson does TV, and Sara Jackson does that. And we're three very busy mums with day jobs, but that's my way of just trying to do something. And I have something up my sleeve in a little pause I'm taking from work right now of something I want to do, because I want these books in schools, because Book Trust told me there isn't a book like this.
It's brilliant. I've seen the book and it's perfect, and so brilliant that you're doing that, because more of this does need to be out there. Hence the podcast, hence the talking about disability. Books about disability. There's more people on TV with disability in the last few years, which is amazing.
Yes.
So let's talk about what you did in TV as well. But before that, what is your app called?
So the app is the Treehouse at Number 9, and the book is the same. And you know what we try to do is, because we self-published and we were funded to a certain degree, what we are really happy to do is if there's a healthcare centre, or there's a geneticist somewhere, or there's a school somewhere that would really like a copy of this book, and you wouldn't mind sticking a picture of it on social media, we'll send books to people. We're not doing this to make it would be amazing if we could create something wonderful that became a business, but right now this is about raising awareness and celebrating difference. And whatever way we will do that. So we've had people creating characters for us. We will work with charities. We've given I created a story session for schools, and there's a lovely charity in London that's using it to go into schools, do our literacy session using our characters, and then talk about their charity and all the good things that they do. So, you know, we're very community, and just trying to make a different genuinely.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we'll talk about this in more detail
exactly
later.
we can
Yeah, for sure, definitely, because we're definitely on the same page with about empowering people with differences, and embracing them as well. Because I believe, because when I work with children with disabilities and additional needs, I just think they're all like superheroes.
Well, they are.
They've all got different little things going on, and you're absolutely right. These differences they've got are quite often seen as a negative, where actually you're right.
It's a positive. It's tipping it all on. It is. It's tipping it all on its head. By doing these books and doing what we do, and keeping in touch with charities and people who have this foot. I have one foot left in the world of disability that I won't ever take out. I don't want to take it out. But obviously, most people are living their lives in this. You know, your life is looking after being who you are, but also being a mum to Iggy and everything it is Iggy. I just made my brain just stopped temporarily. You know, being all the things you are, but this is your life. This is not. This is not something else. That's it. So you know, to just just to stay in this and find different ways to react and empower people. Exactly that.
Brilliant. You're doing a great job at that. The books are amazing as well.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your TV work, because you've done some amazing programs, haven't you? Do you want to share a few programs that you've made, and then where the two sides of your character met together?
Yes, definitely. So I've worked in TV drama ever since I left university. I did English at university. My mum worked in television in Manchester, which is where I'm from, and she was the secretary for years at BBC Manchester. And so it was always quite exciting and lovely, and thinking, oh, I wonder. And I got a job at the BBC, sort of temping, and then I got a producer secretary job for an amazing woman who was running Eastenders and Casualty. So I was like a dream job in like 22 or something, working for this brilliant woman, and then went to Eastenders with her when she stopped doing both jobs, and then she was fantastic, and she then got made the head of drama at Channel 5 the year before it launched. So I went with her as her assistant. She was the controller of drama, I was the assistant, and I got to read and shadow and read lots of scripts and sort of learn and watch, and also watch a channel come to life, which was kind of crazy. And I got to shadow script edit, and I knew I really wanted to script edit, so I worked there for 3 years, and then I kept applying for things, and I got a role as a assistant script editor on EastEnders. So I got to go back to EastEnders, which was just brilliant, and I stayed there for 18 months. Got you very quickly if you manage to swim, you know, thrown in and to the deep end, and you swim to the shallow end. I got made a script editor quite quickly, and then I stayed there for sort of a year and a half, which in EastEnders terms is like 40 years, because it's just relentless, absolutely relentless. And at the point that this was probably the beginning of something that's become a bit of a pattern, where I could have stayed, I could have been a producer, there was a sort of an offer on the table, but I said to myself, the minute I feel like I'm not coping with the stress in the way that I want to be the me that I want to be at work, I'm going to go and find something else. So I did, and I went to do a freelance script editing job, which was all right, and then I did another one, and then I did a bit of work for Sony, and then sort of in a run of different things, I got hired by the guy who was running drama at Sky. And 6 weeks into that job, he announced he was going to do another job at the BBC, and I was kind of left with Dream Team, which they were making, and then there was a new show called Mile High that was going to be there, and this need for Sky to make lots of drama. So it was, you know, years before where they are now, where they make wonderful stuff. And Dream Team was brilliant. I mean, it was run by this absolutely tireless woman, a mother, a devoted mother. So I was there for sort of 5 years, and in that time I had Jacob, my eldest, and also my father passed away, and I lived a lot of life in that time, and suddenly sort of found myself being this TV exec, you know, head of drama under the age of 30. Had no thought that would be who I would be. My sister used to joke that she would be this executive running around and swanning in with her lovely clothes, and I would have like 10 children off me, married to a farmer or something, and it was just not, I didn't know who this person was. But I was there, and I think after my dad died, and then my lovely, lovely friend died, not long after that. And I don't know if it just woke me up, and I thought, I don't want to do this job anymore. I need to get out. I need to get out of this. And there were it'd been a really lovely, hard, challenging job, and like 3 different heads of channel at the time I was there, and ages before I could hire anyone to help me, and again, all patterns from my working life going forwards. And I thought, no, I'm gone. I'm going to go. I'm going to ask to leave. And I remember it looked weird. I think people thought I was insane, and that's fine. If I look back at it, I think that something in me knew that I was about to become a different type of mother. And I left there, did a contract for somebody, a little bit of time off. So I got some time with Jacob, which I felt I didn't have any of, and it was amazing to just be at home a bit. And then I got pregnant with Louis, and then it was a very, very test-ridden, difficult pregnancy. So had I been at that job, I don't know how I would have done it.
Yeah, of course.
But once I then went back to work, I worked for Linda LaPlante's production company. That was the first job I went back in to do, for an amazing woman who ran that company, who they trusted me that when I needed to go to hospital or do what I needed to do, I could be that mum, because Louis was still very poorly and still very, lots was still very unclear about what the challenges were. Lots and lots of appointments. I mean, head to toe. All of those appointments that you've got to... I've still got the file, the great big concertina file of all the paperwork and all the everything.
Yeah,
and
it's almost like our children almost need their own PA.
Yeah, they really
don't they?
do.
Because the paperwork just starts mounting up.
Correct.
Massively, doesn't it?
And actually, I remember one lovely woman who has got a child with the same condition as Louis, who actually ended up going to the infant school that Louis went to.
Oh, wow.
And the Senko called me and said, I think there's a child here with the same condition as Louis. I was like, don't be ridiculous. How possibly? There's not anyone. I ended up giving her this pack of paperwork I used to take around, which I photocopied and would leave with somebody that had like this, and this, everything you need to know about my child. If you're not going to listen to me, you're going to read it from other things. His is karyotype, his is this is this is his heart, this is his liver, this is his this. I mean, and I gave her that and I said, find all of your stuff, put it there, go and make 3 copies of it, and know that you can always send it to somebody, because you don't want them looking at the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
For it.
That's really important.
So important.
Yeah, we have to start getting really organised when our children come along.
And when you tick something off your list, you think, oh God, I haven't had that appointment again, I'll do that. And you phone them and you leave a message, you think, it's off my list. It's not off your list if they don't call you back. It's all of that. It's having to just be on it.
Yeah, massively.
And it's exhausting.
Yeah, very much
mentally exhausting to just not ever drop the ball.
And having to chase, not just one
all
person,
all the time.
Several people
I remember,
that you're having to chase.
I remember once somebody, because actually the wonderful little nursery we took him to helped me get a team around the child meeting. But the first time someone mentioned that to me, I burst out crying because I didn't have a team. There was me. Yeah. And if I got ill, or if I collapsed from something, or if just life happened, nobody was on it. I was on all of it. My husband was working furiously trying to keep us, afloat, and I was the person doing all of the hospital appointments, and I was the person getting on top of all of that. And there was that dread deep down that I would never have looked at the time, thinking, what if I'm not here to do this?
Yeah.
How does that work? So a team around the child, it was literally like, there is no team. There's me and a lot of people who don't want to help me. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
As well. So did he have lots of other interventions, like early interventions like speech?
We tried to get, so speech we had because with the hypertonia, I didn't ever think it was the vocabulary or the cognitive ability, but I did think that the muscles in his mouth, he was not a little baby he never explored things with his mouth ever. And that was always bizarre, because all babies shove everything in their mouths, but he didn't. And and grinding food was quite difficult, and when you then go and educate yourself, so many muscles in the tongue and in the teeth and in the lips and all of that. And I thought, so we got a little bit of speech therapy, but actually quite a lot of the time they focus on the vocabulary, how many words a child's got. It was like, well, I don't need the words, I've got the words. I need to just see what I can do. What do you think? Are we muscular wise? I found at some point, it's hard to remember a lot of this, thankfully. Great, I'm very blessed that I can't remember most of this, but I found we had a neuromuscular appointment a couple of times, because I needed to know what to look for, because genetically there may be something. We did get that information that we just have to watch for some muscular stuff, so that's okay. what do you look for? What would happen? You know, put it in the massive filing cabinet in the back of the head. Didn't ever get OT. Did get physio. Physio was the thing I got, and then physio I just put in place with sports groups. And a lovely friend of ours who started doing like a sporty kids thing, and I said, will you just come and do stuff for Louis and Jacob, which is really, I need to strengthen his core. I don't know how to do it. Yeah. We've done karate. I ended up doing karate with them, but that was like secret physio. Yeah. A lot of things I paid for. I got in an educational psychologist and said, are we good? You know, he walked around on his toes for a long time before anyone would go, he's a boy, he's young, he's this. And I go, right, are you listening to me now? Can I have a neuromuscular appointment, please? Thank you very much. You know, I educated myself and where possible dipped in and out. And the community paediatrician was really good. Various genetic tests just along the way, because he's rare, so nobody could look and go, here's another kid with 18p deletion, let's see what we need. Yeah. But back to TV, so I did that, and then my next job was for a company. It's an Israeli company, and I was setting up the UK arm, and they had a bunch of gorgeous shows that had been on the network over there. And I met this guy who was going to end up being my boss in Soho House, surrounded by, you know, TV media people, and he's sitting there showing me trailers of a couple of the original shows that they had, one of which was a show called The A Word, and the trailer was so gorgeous. I'm sitting at Soho House not doing a very good interview, essentially just crying, sitting on this chair, weeping as I watched this show. And he was quite taken aback. And I said, you can sell this show. I can sell this show for you. There's no question. And I said, I would never have said this in an interview at this point, but there's these two Saras. I said, I didn't expect to be this emotional, but I am that mum. I'm that mum. My boy doesn't have, you know, isn't on the autistic spectrum. He doesn't have autism, but I am that mum, and that's why I'm crying. So we can sell this show. I can sell this show. And it didn't put him off. So I got the job. And so the A Word, I took it to a co-producer, because actually we were such a new company. And we managed through that co-producer to get an amazing writer with experience in that world, and, you know, as a teacher and as an amazing, lovely human being, Peter Bowker. And they're filming the third series of it. I only worked at this company for the first series, but I'm an exec producer on that show, and it's one of the first thing that I felt was the proudest thing I'd ever done in television, because it brought the two me's together. It's taken a very long time, I would say almost until the last 6 months, you know, and that's 7 years ago, to bring all the me's together and not feel like I have to apologise for coming off the conveyor belt as I did, and then having to be the mum that I was, taking jobs that were great and fine, and, you know, but ultimately not wanting to work full time in the end, and needing to be at home, and needing to care about my kids, and needing to care about our family. And it's taken me a long time to stop apologising for that. And I have stopped apologising for it.
The A Word, amazing. And it's just so lovely to see more programmes like this starting to happen now. But at the time, the A Word, it was a real revolutionary thing, wasn't it?
And for it to be on BBC One, I think was amazing. That is exactly the place it should be. The commissioner at the BBC is absolutely right that it should have been there, because it's funny and it's emotional and it's family. It's about family, and it's about a blended family who happen to have a child with a diagnosis as well. You know, it's a representation of something different. It's not set in London, you know, it's not set in Manchester, it's set in the Lake District, which is gorgeous, and where I spent lots of my holiday as well. So I was like so happy. And the original show in Israel is by a fantastic writer called Karen Margalit, and she is the mother of a child with autism. So it comes from a wonderful place, and that is, that was it made such a difference in Israel in terms of actually healthcare and diagnoses and all kinds of things. There was a massive knock-on effect. I don't know here, but I know that they've worked very diligently with the charities and the organisations that support, people with autism. It was done very responsibly. But I also know that, the actress who played the mum, who's brilliant, Morven, she got a lot of crap in the first series. I don't know how that's carried on since then. People love to attack. And I think, she got an awful lot of support, and I think she was amazing in it. And I was incredibly protective over the mother character in that show all the way along.
Yeah, of course.
All the way along.
Being a parent.
That was her, being that mum, seeing bits of her, knowing things I did differently, knowing things where I was fortunate, where she wasn't fortunate, or whatever it is, But there should be more. So there's an amazing writer called Jack Thorne who's done everything, including Harry Potter. He did the Harry Potter Cursed Child, and he's absolutely wonderful. But I watched the South Bank show on him recently, where he talks about why he is such a passionate advocate for disability and telling storylines with disability. All of this move in television to talk about diversity ignores disability most of the time. And I am a big banger of a drum of this, and he is somebody that is making an enormous difference, because he will write parts for people with disabilities. He will cast disabled people in those parts. And I didn't know this about him. It's because he had a condition or something, was sort of an invisible disability in his youth, and so he felt like a fraud, that he shouldn't do it. But he works with this. I've literally just watched this. It was so life-affirmingly wonderful, and I just, Jack is a power, a force of nature in drama, and so people want to work with him all the time and commission him, and it is amazing that the world of disability has this advocate. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we need to do more all the time. And for behind the scenes, employing people with disabilities.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Oh, that was amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to add? That was just such an amazing interview.
Oh, gosh.
And you were a really go-getter. And I think the special world is so lucky to have you in it.
Oh, thank you. Well, look, as in all situations, if I give a speech or I talk to people, I can't really, I will walk away from here not remembering one word I've said. So other than knowing I've had a lovely time, I think it's amazing. All power to you for doing this and for doing what you do. When I genuinely have some time, I'm going to learn Makaton with you. And I think, anything I can do, but we just need to keep making the world a better place.
Thank you so much,
No,
Sara
thank
Jackson.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to join me today. To find out more about what I do, visit www.specialworldtraining.com and follow us on our Facebook page, Special World Training, Instagram and LinkedIn. I believe knowledge is power and strength is in numbers. And if more people get involved in our special world, we can all make our world a better place. Join me next week for more amazing stories from the good, the bad and the ugly.